philanthropist Melinda French Gates has announced she will be donating $1 billion over the next 2 years to support women's rights. In a guest essay for the New York Times regarding her decision, French Gates writes, quote, "In nearly 20 years as an advocate for women and girls, I have learned that there will always be people who say it's not the right time to talk about gender equality. It's frustrating and short-sighted. Decades of research on economics, well-being, and governance make it clear that investing in women and girls benefits everyone." So one of the grant's recipients was the American Institute for Boys and Men. And joining us now is that organization's president, Richard Reeves. Also with us for the discussion, professor of marketing at the NYU Stern School of Business, Scott Galloway. Good to have you both. Richard, I'll toss to you first here and ask why this grant makes sense overall for women's rights.
Well, I think what Melinda French Gates has realized is that a world of floundering men is difficult to be a world of flourishing women, that we do have to rise together, and that investing in particularly young men in education, mental health, etc., is in the long run going to be good for women. Men and women will be raising children together. There's growing evidence that many young men are struggling in education, in mental health, etc., especially young men, I would say, and men of color above all. And so I think it's a recognition that gender equality movement has to expand to include boys and men as well. And coming from a figure with such prominence, Melinda French Gates, with such a strong track record of leadership, I think it sends a strong signal that we do now need to include boys and men in this conversation.
And to your point, Scott Galloway, you've been a great voice on this, on the state of young men in America right now. Explain the challenges, because equality doesn't necessarily mean that each side is the same. Men and women have differences, but what's happening to young men is equally, potentially, as disturbing.
Yeah, good to be with you, and congratulations to my friend Richard Reeves. I think this is a great American story. Yeah, look, unfortunately, young men are paying for the advantage that me and my father received. And so there's a lack of empathy. And Richard turned me on to this great quote. I'm parroting him right now. "Empathy is not a zero-sum game. Civil rights didn't hurt white people. Gay marriage didn't hurt heteronormative marriage." And to Richard's point, what he's always said is, who wants more economically and emotionally viable young men? Women. And unfortunately, when men come off the tracks, as they are doing, and especially among younger men, they're more prone to nationalist content. They're more prone to misogynistic content. So an investment in boys is an investment in society and in women.
You know, Richard, it's so fascinating. Maybe 5 years ago, when people like Scott Galloway 3 years ago were talking about this, and a lot of people threw their hands up. Oh my God, how dare you talk about boys when men have been, dominant through for thousands and thousands of years. You heard those complaints. What Mika and I, on a very personal level, but so much anecdotal evidence that I suspect a lot of people hearing this are young women talking to Mika, and me going, where are the men that to date? Where are the men that understand the basics? And there's like this horrible choice. On one side, you do have again, all anecdotal, but you have. Well, you know what? I'm not going to wander into that minefield, what I was about to say. Let's just say younger women are understanding the costs of the male crisis right now, and they're understanding it.
Or they're living the costs.
They're living the cost of it.
I think what's interesting is that these stories, you say anecdotal, but it's in the evidence, it's in the data. Like we see there's a bigger gender gap in college today than there was in the 70s. It's just the other way around. The biggest rise in suicide rates, tragically, has been among young men. We're losing 40,000 men a year to suicide. And what I've discovered is that if you have, it's among parents, if you have a boy in the K-12 education system, you kind of get this immediately. And if you have a daughter in the dating market, you kind of get this immediately too. And realizing that you just can't separate these two things out. And that it is not a betrayal of the ideals of gender equality to start dealing with the issues of boys and young men. It is the application of the ideals of gender equality. It's not a zero-sum game, as Scott said. And I think that penny's really dropping now, that people are realizing we cannot neglect the problems of boys and men if we want a world that's better for all of us. It's not just anecdotal, it's in the data, and we've got to take this seriously as a society as well as parents.
Scott, I was particularly interested in what Ms. Gates has done. I salute her for it in terms of investing also in young boys and men. And I think you or Richard mentioned young boys and men of color, because many of us, in any study has shown, disproportionately are raised by single mothers. I was one of them. And to help those young boys and men that are buttressed by programs like yours, and to develop them also helps their single mothers who are trying to balance life, because they are single mothers disproportionately in minority communities. Talk about the challenge of that and how this could be helpful there.
Well, Reverend, you and I share that. We were raised by superheroes. My mother was a single immigrant mother who lived and died a secretary, raised me on her own. And what the research shows is that the single point of failure, if you were to reverse engineer into why men are struggling, is when they lose a male role model. And we have the second most single parent households, which is Latin for a woman heading the household alone, just behind Sweden. In addition, as Richard's work has pointed out, the vast majority of people in primary school education are women. A boy is twice as likely to be suspended for the same behavior in school and 5 times as likely if he's a black boy. So what you have is an entire cohort of men being raised without male influence. And what's equally interesting is that girls have similar outcomes in single-parent households, same college attendance, same rates of self-harm. What Richard's research has shown, and it's just so fascinating and important, is that while boys are physically stronger, they're mentally and emotionally weaker. And we need to acknowledge that. We need a group of thriving young men. How many times have we heard people say, I know a ton of young single women who are great and I can't find men for them? You can find men for them, just not any men they want. We need to level up young people in general, and specifically young men.
And how, Richard, as we leave, this is a generational crisis, and we hear it. Again, we hear it every day. And Mika and I hear it not only from women, girls in their teens or women in their 20s, we hear it from women in their 30s and 40s saying, and they will say that, especially women in their 20s, that
there's no one worth dating.
There's nobody worth dating. They are playing video games. Of course, this is a massive generalization. I understand that. There's some great guys out there, but the numbers just show they're not graduating from college at a rate that women are. They're not taking jobs at the rate women are. And the anecdotal complaints we get is they spend their days on video games, porn, and watching Netflix, and just staying in their parents' house. I don't know when did this happen, man? When did this happen?
It's a slow burning crisis. This hasn't happened overnight. We've seen this slippage in the education system now going on for years. But I do think it's important here not to end up blaming young men entirely for their plight. There's sometimes a feel of that, right? There's a bit of I don't want us to kind of just roll our eyes here and say, well, if they would just get out of the basement or whatever. We have an education system that's just not working very well. 23% of boys in the K-12 system in the US have been diagnosed with a developmental disability. We're just failing them. As Scott just alluded to, we have reduced the share of male teachers from 33% when Reagan was in office to 23% today. We have emptied the male role models out of our classrooms. We have disinvested in vocational education. The labor market has turned against especially working class men and men of color. So these are structural challenges that many men are facing, and we have to deal with them as such and not fall into the trap of the kind of well, if they would just kind of buck up a bit, man up a bit, etc. These have got to be
Right.
taken seriously as societal issues rather than individual ones.
With empathy. President of the American Institute for Boys and Men, Richard Reeves, thank you very much. NYU Scott Galloway, thank you as well.
Thank you, Scott.